And with me today here at Davos during World Economic Forum, I have with me a person that when we started working on setting up the DOCONOMY stage of impact, what was important to us was to find not only the good examples, but the great examples. And I had the great fortune to bump into Eva earlier this year, or no, this new year. It's a new year. I must be getting old. Last year, many years ago, I met Eva, and I was intrigued by the drive and the commitment, but also the ideas around disruption and challenging the status quo within an industry that very much need it. So Eva Karlsson, CEO, founder, overall Houdini, CEO Houdini.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's been a great and inspiring day, and I guess that now moving from a much more like regenerative, scientific, biodiversity, protecting, conservation effort perspective, you're right, we're moving into a sector which is in need of dire change, transformation.
But before we kick that off, because I from what I've seen, the journey is amazing and you got plenty of things in the making, but if you could share, I know you have a few slides at least, if you could share a little bit about Houdini and what you are currently working on.
I will. So Houdini is an outdoor brand based in Stockholm, Sweden. And I would say an outdoor brand, we of course are the result of a love affair with nature. And I think that relates to much more people than outdoor athletes. This morning with the sunrise here in Davos, last night with an amazing snowfall. So those encounters with nature that we all, I think, recognize and get this amazing feeling.
So Houdini is a love affair with nature.
Yes,
that's fantastic.
But I will have to add to that because, of course, apparel today is not a love affair with nature. So acknowledging that although we say and act as if we love nature in our private life, more or less everyone in our industry, and I would assume most other industries where we produce products nowadays might trick themselves into believing that they have a love affair with nature, but it's a predatory love affair. We're not at all lovers in the way we should be with nature, but rather predatory. And that is a mind shift that we need to act on. And of course, it's not a new realization for us. We've been working on this for a couple of decades and more. So what we're dreaming about as a brand and a company is enabling a life of maximum experience, but to have no negative impact on the world while living our life, maybe even a positive impact. So that's what we're dreaming about, and we're also very action-oriented, so we act upon that dream. And so we've been designing for circularity since 2001. And when we say circular, it's about mimicking the natural system and the amazing flows, the complexity that we talked about earlier today, and tapping into that complexity, and then creating flows of natural resources that don't go to waste, creating natural flows of products that can be shared rather than owned, for instance, and then creating natural flows of knowledge and insights by being open source. So there's more to it than the term circular might mean to many and how it's applied by many brands.
Can I just say something when I'm very impressed? That is a completely holistic approach to a greater responsibility than just dressing someone.
Yes.
But enabling so much more positive, and you've done this since 2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's how we, I'll get back to that. But of course, opening up and widening our perspectives is also how we innovate in the right way. And not doing incremental change, but actually transforming. I know somebody who said that, do you want to be a caterpillar with wings or a butterfly? We want to become a butterfly. And I think we all should aim at becoming butterflies and be aware of the incremental change that might make us feel good, but is not enough. So circularity. And while we've been working on circular, we have today 87% circular products by design. That's way better than anybody I know in our industry. While we've been working on all of this, we can also see the trajectory of our planet, the Earth system, and how that is degrading, and how Earth system scientists have been reporting that since 2009. And it's going in the wrong direction. And this is how it looks today, 2023, I should say. So last year, I'm getting old too. 6 out of 9 boundaries, we're out of bounds.
And this is how I got to know Houdini, looking at driving a business within the Planetary Boundaries. And I thought you were an outdoor wear brand, but this really threw me off the shelf, thinking like, what an amazing perspective to have on everything that you do within a business, no matter what business you do. Now, you do what you do, yeah, but this perspective is a fantastic guide into what's next.
And I guess a guide, the framework in itself is a guide for any company, I would say. And for us, we believe that reconnecting to nature and having those natural encounters is maybe something that is profoundly needed. So being an outdoor brand then, designing products for a way of life that helps you reconnect to nature means something to us. But we want to share it and create ripples across industries. We're moving in the wrong direction in 8 out of 9 boundaries. And we're part of this industry then. It's a 3 billion take, make, waste industry. Every year, 100 billion garments are made, produced. 60% are discarded within the first year. So, crazy statistics. It's a wasteful industry. So there's need to reimagine everything, as we say. Reimagine and then redesign and get to work. And these are just a couple of examples, I guess, from this framework and how our way of thinking and looking and broadening our perspective and how that helps us innovate. So we created, I think, the first thermal layer that doesn't shed microplastics and or microfibers. And when we do that, we also enhance performance and maybe even enhance looks and comfort. So there's so much opportunity to innovate and not only solve wicked challenges that we have today, but also excel in the other areas, which are more average. Everybody works on them, but we can work on them better. Another one, shell layers. They're filled with chemicals that make them poisonous. They're mixed with different materials, so they will always become waste and never circular. So we've designed shell layers to be circular and free of those chemicals. It's possible. All of this is possible to anybody, and we're open source, so it's just copy us. And we even designed a fine dining menu out of worn-out base layers.
You can't be real. How in the world? First, you're saying you're an outdoor brand. Then you're presenting something that is an innovation brand, which is truly, inspirational and impressive, and making it open source. And then now you're a fine dining restaurant.
Well, no, but we provide some materials for fine dining restaurant chefs. Maybe I can show you in this film, and I hope there's sound. Maybe not.
Yes, it would be easier with sound.
It would be. But I can... should we skip it?
Maybe if you could just retell that, what was the idea?
Yes, I will do that.
And how did it come about?
An outdoor brand, we work with circular synthetics, but we also work with natural fibers like merino wool. Most outdoor companies do. And when we decided to move ahead with merino wool, we thought that it'd take 6 months or so to have it ready to launch on the market. It took 4.5 years. Right. And the reason is how we innovate and zoom in and zoom out and make sure that we have the systems perspective, but also have the micro perspective. So moving to from the macro to the micro, we realized there were so many design flaws in the system of designing wool. Like I'm wearing a wool garment. It looks like anyone could have made it, but this one is pure. It doesn't have the coating of synthetic polymers that most wool base layers do have today. It's not a mix of synthetic and organic fibers, meaning it cannot be composted or recycled. So there was a lot of impurities to get out of the system, and it was possible. We more or less didn't have to innovate. We just had to figure out how to puzzle it together better. So when we had done that, and then we had people in our wonderful base layers for several years, but when we got the first back that were worn out, we did the big stress test, namely composting them. We're the composting expert. This man in the film, Gunnar, he's a composting expert, and any composting expert knows that if you put contaminants into a compost, the microbes in the soil, they die, or they slow down, and the temperature changes, the texture changes, everything. So you can use all senses, and composting expert does.
So it was like an ecosystem impact test.
Yes. And it went great, of course, because our products are pure. And with that soil, we had an organic garden, grow some vegetables, and then we had a fine dining chef serve our customers a fine dining menu out of our worn-out sportswear. And that's how beautiful that's how beautiful business can work, and if we work in partnership with nature, really.
It's a great way of proving a point, and also illustrating what you can become if you're not chasing fast fashion. You know, doing a 6-month project, turning it into 4 years. That's not really fast fashion, but if it is sustainable to such an extent that you can actually eat it, then I'm sure it was worth it.
Yeah, and I think that investing that time means that we have products that have much more longevity for us as a business and for users as a product out there in nature. So business within planetary boundaries, that's our call to action, I would say, to any business out there. We have no time at all, and we're out of bounds everywhere, and we need to find in us the courage to acknowledge where we are and act fast and swiftly with science as a tool. And this framework is amazing. I would suggest it to anybody.
And this must give you quite a lot of data, and maybe you are about to get to that later, but I'm thinking that you are exploring and innovating so ambitiously. And I'm sure that the data extracted from that, and we usually say at DOCONOMY that if without first movers, no one would move at all. And is there a perspective for Houdini on how you contribute to driving the evolution and the responsibilities of the business as such, or how do you share your findings?
Well, we launched our first Planetary Boundaries assessment in 2018. And that is open to everybody to look at, and it's more. Of course, there's a lot of data in there, but it's also a guide for the methodology, kind of. But I would like to add that we've talked a lot about data, and there's amazing people who are much more knowledgeable about data than us at Houdini. And maybe with deep tech, we can get much further into understanding nature. But we're also pretty good in the human race at taking shortcuts. And we are very keen on not only using data to understand where we're going, and I would say that there's a lot of common sense to use, to practice. Common sense, for instance, moving from linear to circular, it's a given. Why would we design for waste? When there's an amazingly complex, perfectly functioning system like nature who doesn't create any waste, we need to be able to mimic that. So there's a lot of common sense, and designing for circularity means then that is a way for us to actually move in the right direction on every single boundary. There are other examples I can move. I don't know how we are on time, but I can move. So circular monomaterials, where it's maybe recyclable at the level of a PET bottle. You have recycled content going in, a pure product that can stay around and be used frequently and for many years. But at the end of the day, it can be repaired, it can be shared, it can be reused with our help, and at the end of the day also recycled into something new. And we take responsibility for that and need our customers and users to collaborate with us on that, of course, bringing them to us.
But I must interrupt.
Please do.
Because this is fantastic. You're taking the legacy component of, in my perspective, of many industries, and fashion is like you have this incremental improvements that you're trying, you know, every year or every half year or every quarter there's a new fashion out of a almost like a UX perspective, like some new trend. But this is disrupting stuff. This is really challenging all of the processes, involving all of the stakeholders, looking at the community that you must have built then around. And what is it that, and this is maybe, I'm sorry, but it may be a bit of a curveball, but you are so passionate about this, and you're driving so much change in so many verticals with such high ambition. What drives you, kind of thing? What is it when you wake up in the morning? It's like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do today.
I think I'm speaking for the entire team that we want to prove it's possible, because we truly believe and we can see that we're on a trajectory where we're not there, we're not perfect, absolutely not, but it's possible. And business, I mean, you and I are Swedish. Näringsliv is the Swedish word for business. It's nurturing life. And we need to get back to that. We need to figure out a way for business to make sense in the future as well. And we want to prove that and then share that so that we can be.
That's a very
and
good, that's
we're not
good,
alone.
There's amazing
companies
You're so humble now. I don't think that many companies do it in such an ambitious way that you do. But I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just because it's such an important and such an engaging topic that not only disrupting what the business is doing, but involving all of the stakeholders and doing this for 20 years, driving a business with the ambition of doing that within and great respect for the planetary boundaries. I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
It's fun. I think it's called living systems design. It's not about looking at a system as something static, and maybe that's how we looked upon our projections and plans for companies for many years, that there is like this highway ahead and we can plan for 5 years and we're going to do exactly this, and that the outcome is going to be that. But there's the complexity of the world is accelerating and everything is moving. So we have had a maybe fake, we've tricked ourselves into thinking that we can have things being static because it's comfortable for us. But of course they're not. And now we're hit by all those waves of feedback loops from nature. I'll swing, chemistry is another one. There's so many things we can do with chemistry. It's only 1 out of 9 boundaries, but it's a really important one. Microplastics is one. PFAS, if you're aware, chemistry that shouldn't be allowed in consumer products anywhere, but they're everywhere. We phased them out in 2018. A lot of them are out there in our industry still. But then, on top of designing materials and products in the right way, design for longevity and versatility is something that is equally important. We have a formula that we use, an impact formula. It's about how you design the product and produce the product and taking that responsibility, but it's also about the volumes produced and the consumption patterns that you push. Either you create and enable an easy life for customers who can have a small wardrobe that makes a lot of sense for many different parts of life, or you push products constantly on them because of trends, brands, colors, creating anxious, unhappy customers. That's also a crazy thing about the current state of fashion.
Yeah, and then you are probably not as much a lifestyle brand as you are a brand supporting life.
Yeah, thanks. We wearable multi-tools for that life. So you can have 10. We have a Live Large with Less challenge. We launched a couple of summers ago, and we had our customers and users apply to be part of the challenge, and there were many others joining as well, and I joined. And the idea is to have 10 garments and do everything for the entire summer. So I did it last summer, and I kind of have this boring 10-piece wardrobe since, not 10. Maybe I'm at 20, but...
Was it difficult?
No, it's not. Not if you have Houdini on. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think any company can design products like this, design for that are built to last both in terms of quality and style, for sure. It's possible. I think I have an example. Yeah, this garment. I'm not wearing it myself, but on the screen you see a garment that we know by a customer survey that we did a couple of years ago, that our customers use this on average 1,287 times. So that's across 10 years plus, several times a week for many different activities. And you know what the average in the world is? Maybe it says on the slide.
I don't dare to ask, actually.
Now, the average globally is 160 times for a garment. And the average in the Western world for some sorts of garments is 10 times. So everything is there that we need to radically change our industry. We all can move from designing garments that are used 10 times and then discarded to more than 1,000.
But it's also then supporting change of behavior, change of perspective, and educating the users, I would assume, bringing them on board and explaining why you do what you're doing. Yeah,
we haven't had much budget for that, I would say. But the power of design, I would like to emphasize on that. If you design a product the right way, it becomes addictive, or at least you fall in love with it, but you stay in love with it as well.
Yeah, it's better to have the product communicate than having communicate the product.
Yeah, trying to push. This is about being an enabler, I guess, and a solutions provider. So we cannot do it with poor products and then have people feel shame because they want to buy something new. We better design good products that people want to keep. So yeah, that's the statistics for the different types.
So you had the right answers all along.
Yeah, I think I was even wrong. 120 times globally, not 160. So, yeah, we don't need more clothes. We need clothes that can do more. And we need to move towards business within planetary boundaries in every sector.
And how are you working to do that? Are you working to report on it? Are you working to educate your team around it? I know this is coming out of the Potsdam Institute under Johan Rockström, and leading the way, and alarming also that more and more of the planetary boundaries are very much challenged. How do you inspire your team, and how in turn does your team inspire others to take this into account?
Knowledge is really important, so spending time on making sure that we have a knowledgeable team. That's key, of course, but then working with our system scientists. It can be a decision whether to move to one or the other material. We can hook up and collaborate with our system scientists, or bring them in as consultants to make sure that we take the right decision and don't avoid shortcuts where we might do damage that we're not even aware of. So that's one thing. And then assessing our impact together also with we're working with the Stockholm Resilience Center and Alba Eco to assess our company.
And all of the reports that you produce are available for anyone else to learn from?
So the one that we have been working on now will be available soon. And I think that there's going to be a newsletter within a week. So if you sign up to our newsletter on our website, you will receive the brief or the highlights from the report. And then the report will be coming out in, I think, April.
This could be such a long conversation, because I'm really curious about how you challenge processes and supply chain, and looking at materials, looking at the chemistry, and looking at using design using sensible design as leverage for increased level of uses, number of usage, and by that way reducing the environmental impact from what you do in a garment that already is produced with the greatest consideration in regard of impact. However, we don't have that time. But I would like to see the conversation continue, and I think that as a challenger, there is a lot to learn from Houdini, not necessarily only within fashion, but also in other companies. Your perspective on how to create value. But I think a lot of people in here and also with us over live stream wonders what's next. I mean, you've done so many things, challenged so many status quos. What's next for Eva Karlsson?
Well, there's so much stuff. We're working holistically, so that means that we're not dialing in on only one thing and managing that, but we're doing some really cool stuff in retail now. We have, like in Stockholm, a walk-in closet, so to speak, for Stockholmers, and if you go in there, you're the one who decides if you want to rent, subscribe, buy, and it doesn't matter if it's new or old. Everything's in there. It sounds pretty simple and basic. It should have been done ages ago, but it hasn't been done. And many times we are restricted by like digital development and the lack of system support, and then sometimes other things. But that's really cool. And then bio-based materials and working in depth, in partnership with nature in new ways. That's in the pipeline.
Okay, so we need to have another conversation on business model innovation and disruption, and in making a livable tomorrow relevant the products produced today. I hear a lot of your stuff is also good for climbing. If there's any climbers out there that are interested, I hear Houdini is a favorite. I would never dare to climb anything higher than a chair, so it's not for me. But I'm sure there is other opportunities. Thank you so much, Eva, and very inspiring. I'm a big fan, so thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, and thanks for this inspiring stage. It's been great.